Alrighty, traders. I want to give you a market update on the markets right now, and I'm going to be sharing with you how April last year I did a video saying why I see 29,000 Dow coming, and it was a powerful pattern. I'll be sharing that with you. Also, be covering the silver and gold markets as well too. Also, be covering Bitcoin as well too. So let's get straight into it. Don't place a trade based on what you'll see in this video because there is no guarantees of making a profit in the market. It takes you a long time to become a good trader. So this video here is just to educate you to become a much better trader. Alrighty traders, so let's get straight into it. But before I do start, guys, a lot of people have asked me about my trading. As you know, I've been pretty quiet this last week or so over the YouTube channel, and I've been just really focusing on my trading and having a phenomenal time trading. And once you know what to look for, you just got to trade that and you can do really well. So I'm running a free web class today where I'm going to teach you my #1 trading system that gets up to a 90% success rate, and what to look for and all that sort of stuff, and how I only trade 1 hour per day to find these amazing trades. If you see that very first thing in the description, go click on that and go check out the brand new web class that I'm running today, the webinar, and you'll be able to see all the details to that, so you can start to apply it to your trading today. So let's actually get straight into the Dow Jones. Now with the Dow Jones, if I bring this over here, okay, this is a video that I did, and as you can see, it says April 27, 2019, and as you can see, it says why I can see a 29,000 Dow coming. And it's really interesting that I put that there, powerful pattern, and I talked about the powerful pattern here. Now, the really interesting thing is that I just recognized or just realized that I did that video back in April last year, and we just hit 29,000 Dow just recently. So it was quite a lot of people say that there's that technical analysis is not a thing and you can't really trade off charts and all that sort of stuff. Well, here is something that I did back in 2018, April 27, 2019, and it actually it took its time, right? It took its time. That was back here. It took its time, but it eventually got there with my projection there. Now, I ultimately see this thing probably racing up to 30,000 Dow, probably a bit of a slingshot move from that there. We haven't gone through a big move yet. We've been slowly crawling up, so I probably would see this thing start to move up for quite some more time. And so that's the Dow Jones, because I ultimately have the interesting thing is if I look at projections, let me bring up here, my projection for the S&P was right there, and as you can see, the market's got there right now. My projection for the Nasdaq was right here around that 9,000 level, and it's actually broken through that right now. But the Dow Jones hasn't actually got to my projection yet, so the Dow Jones trying to get that. My projection for the Dow Jones is 29.5. So it's fascinating to see that the Dow Jones or the S&P, the Nasdaq, has actually got to its projections, but the Dow Jones has not. So really, really, really interesting stuff through there. Moving on through to the actually before I say that, guys, a lot of people have been talking about stock market crash, okay, and that the top's in and stuff like that, and they're worried about the war and all that sort of stuff. Guys, we're not likely to start a war right now. If you look at the market in opposites, if you go back, and I've actually got a lot of paperwork on this back in history. If you look at all the major wars that have happened in the past, when have they started? They have started at the bottoms of markets. Go check it. Go do your research and go do your analysis there. You'll be able to start to see. Let me actually bring this up through, and I just want to search my computer just quickly to see if I have it here. And I just want to share something with you here. And it's not coming up right now, but the really fascinating thing is that there's a lot of things. There's in major wars, right? That's when you see bottoms of markets. So if there is likely to be a war, it's probably likely to happen after the market has been coming down for quite some time. We're not probably likely to see a war anytime soon. Now there is a trade war going on right now, and a currency war, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But that's what That's what basically is happening right now. So we're not in crash territory or anything like that. If you've been listening to some other people been saying that the top's in, the market's in, the crash is going to happen, we're not likely to get that anytime soon. Okay, we haven't informed a top here. We're in a very big bull market right now. So trying to pick a top in the market right now, so the market's going to crash, it's not going to happen. Okay. Yes, we may get some pullback. There's a difference between a crash, which, remember guys, a crash, 2008 crash was what? A whole 2008, right? It takes time for the bear market, or the crash they call it, to unfold. So that's what's happening right now. In that, there, if I go look at the actual transports as well too, the transports is actually pretty much holding its level through here. And I actually see the transports actually breaking above this level and probably racing back up to the all-time high up here. So transports is actually definitely holding its own through here, and I definitely see a lot more bullishness out here. I actually see a lot more bullishness running into the election there. Now, just a reminder that Dow Jones did some internal polling for his company, and they said if that Donald Trump wins, his internal polling said that the S&P is likely to get to 3,600. Now, even to me, that sounds nuts. But who am I to question something like that from someone like that, Dow Jones? So that's where he thinks that the market is, or that's where his internal polling is. It's not like a projection or something like that. And it's not guaranteed, but it's really fascinating to see that. Moving on now through to silver and gold, we can see that silver definitely actually had its breakout. If you remember, over the last few weeks, I've done videos saying that this pullback here was simply the calm before the storm effect, and we actually got a very nice breakout. Now we're getting a bit of a pullback. So now we're getting this bit of a pullback. I believe we're now getting ready to start another big bull run, right? Just like we did here, we got a bit of a pullback, and now we had this pullback, and then we had a bit of a run. And we had this big move up. Now we're going through this move down. Now we're having a bit of a run. We're having a nice pullback through here. Nothing to be worried about, as I see this thing probably continuing up, and this thing probably running to at least the next target up here is 1800. So we're probably likely to run up to 1800 and break up to new highs very shortly. And if you combine that with the whole US dollar, if I go to UUP, which is the US dollar here, I definitely see, especially over the next say 5 years, we're likely to see the US dollar devalue so much, only because of how much printing they've been doing in America, and they're going to eventually default on there, right? They're not going to pay it back, so that's going to send the US currency through the floor, probably down. This UUP is probably going to end up down towards this, say, 20. Let's bring up the monthly chart here. So yeah, let's go back to the weekly chart here for the UP. Probably down towards the 21 level. I'm looking at the UP. So you have that to the equivalent of the US dollar there. But I definitely see, especially what's happening right now and recently on the US dollar, we can see that we had a low through here, high low, a high low through here. Now we've actually broken down. So I believe any rallies is likely to be sold into. Okay, any rallies are likely to be sold into before it starts to head back down again. So I'm very bearish on the US dollar, and that's going to give a lot more buoy to gold as well too. Moving on to one of my favorite metals, and one that I'm actually transferring a lot more money right now into my larger account for long-term investing, and that is silver. I think silver right now silver's nowhere near its highs like gold is. So silver is likely to make some serious moves. And as you can see, right, looking at a weekly chart here with silver, right? And the thing about silver in the weekly chart, things take time. So you don't need to rush into things. You can take your time, think about it, contemplate on it. And even if you miss a little bit of a move, this is the daily chart here. I'd still see, once we start to break this 1950 level, the long-term view over the next decade, the best investment, I believe, is going to be silver and gold. Now, the differences between silver and gold is silver is a lot more of a wildcat, and gold is a bit more of a big ship, right? It just slowly moves. So, but when silver does start to take off, I think silver is going to be a phenomenal investment. Which that's one of the reasons why I'm piling more money into silver myself. Silver's my number one go-to thing, our long-term thing, right? Short-term, we're gonna get short-term. you know, we're going to get, you know, a bit of a pullback, or we're going to get sideways movement. We may even get a bit of a drop down. That's okay, right? That's the short term. Who cares what's going to happen over the next 2, 3, 4 months? Who cares? Over the next 5 years, that's my long-term view, and I'm going to capitalize on some serious movement on silver there. So really excited about that. Moving on now through to GDX as well too. The GDX, I've noticed that we've actually had a nice move up and now a nice move down. Not really much going on here, but I definitely see this thing likely to pick back up. Same for the GDXJ as well too. If I go to the GDXJ, you can actually see that the GDXJ hit the resistance and pulled back down. So we're likely to start to create, if I bring up some, let me erase all this off the screen. If I bring this up through to here, we're likely to start to create some sort of a trending. Now you can see not really much going on. Now we're starting to create a higher high. We're likely to create a higher low and probably break past this level up here, which is around the $43 level through there. So that's the GDXJ there. The SIL is one that I think has got a lot of nice upside potential as well too. The Silver Juniors, yeah, that's SILJ, and the SIL, same sort of thing as well too, right? We have a lot of upside, and we definitely did break up, and now we're having a nice pullback. So that's a bit of a concern through there, but I think long term we're likely to see some nice moves up as well too. We definitely got a very strong reversal candle here. Very strong week up. The next week did nothing, and then a strong week moving down to the downside. And that's where, guys, like as you can see, I'm doing my analysis on these charts here. But the main thing that is important to you as a trader is having some form of a system to get into, you know, like a pattern and so on and so forth. If you're trying to pick the tops and pick the bottoms and stuff like that, it's not really a successful approach to the markets. What's helped me do so well is have a system and have an approach that I just trade the same thing over and over and over again. There is no question. It's like, okay, here's the system. I trade it. Some of them are going to be losing trades. Most of them are going to be profitable trades, and that's how it is. And once again, if you'd like to learn my system, I'm running that webinar today. You can see the very first link in the description. Go check that out and go join me on the next webinar. You'll be able to see all the details to that, so you can start to apply it to your trading and make 2020 the best year you've had. Now, one last thing that I want to share with you, which is oil. Now, oil has had slowly rised up to its previous resistance up here around that 64. And then we had a very strong selling move down. I believe this strong selling here is probably likely to be short-lived. And I think we're likely, my thoughts anyway, is likely to see this rise up. Now, long-term for me is this. I see this whole trend line through here is a very long-term trend line. If I bring up the monthly chart here for a minute, this is a very long-term, big, massive pennant, as you can see. And we're squeezing up, and let me delete that off the screen here, right? We're squeezing up into this overall triangle pattern here on this monthly chart. And it's going to be, and we're like, because we've pretty much done nothing over this last sort of probably couple of years, we're not, it's going to be very exciting when it does break. So if I squeeze my weekly chart back up again, if we start to break above, say, the $70 level, we're back out of this resistance level through here, because we are squeezing up into this massive wedge, then we're probably likely to see oil rise back up to at least 110, and then possibly even rise above that as well too. We're probably likely to see a rise in oil, but you know, anything can happen. So if we do get a break below the wedge, then we're likely to see a lot more movement on the downside, a lot more follow through on the downside from there. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys. I just wanted to share with you one of my recent successful trades that I have done, which was on Win. I got in on Win on this breakout bar through here, right towards the close of this breakout bar. I entered there, right there. I saw this thing was starting to trend up nicely, so it ran up. We had all this sideways movement through here, and then we had a nice breakout. We can see that we actually got a very nice breakout candle from there. It did nothing for a few days, so I had to be patient with it, but then we had the nice rise, and with the nice rise came a really nice profit through there. If I bring up now the options, and as you can see with these options through here, if I look at it was a 135 option through there. Actually, no, that's February 2020. Was it the 135s? No. Actually, I think it was the January one. All right, there you go. So I just double checked my analysis and my stats, and it was the January. I got here on the January on this win trade. So I traded the option, this one here. As you can see, this is the option down the bottom here. This is where the option was, did nothing for a few days, then popped up, and then it did nothing through here, and then on this little pop through here. A little bit of a backing pattern, and then I got out through there. So I picked up roughly around about a 70% return in total, I think it was, for memory. Let me just check here. Yeah, so 70% return, and I was in it for about a few weeks. Actually, what was that? Actually, probably about 3 weeks in total I was in that there. I could have got out here on this gap up. But that was my recent trade for there and 4 wins. So really nice successful trades. I've got to add that to the bank. And also one other trade that I've been in for quite some time as well too, and I'm actually still in right now as I speak, is Goldman Sachs. I got in on Goldman Sachs on this breakout candle right here, I think it was, or this one here, either one, pretty much the same price. And I'm actually still in it right now as I speak with Goldman Sachs. So I don't know when I'm going to be getting out of Goldman Sachs, so I'll be watching this very closely. We are at resistance level right now, but I definitely see Goldman Sachs probably starting to see a nice rise up from here as we're starting to trend and starting to see a nice move up. So that was my overall trade. That's my overall trade there with Goldman Sachs as well, and win. And you know, and so basically, guys, that's my whole analogy, right? Like if I go back to that win trade, you know, it's essentially I'm looking for the same thing I'm looking for right now. And again, on that web class, the reference in the description below, you'll be able to see all the details of what I'm looking for in the pullback here, what I'm looking for with the moving averages, what I'm looking for with the breakout candle there, and so on and so forth. So you guys can do so well out of trading. And I want to leave you with a quick story of mine that I want to share with you where I came from and what ended up happening. You see, when I first started trading, I thought I had beginner's luck, and I found myself in a very dark place after losing a lot of money, and had to move back with my mother and father-in-law. And I remember at that time that my wife was working to sort of help us with the bills and stuff like that. But my father-in-law actually lent me another $5,000, and also he lent me his computer to trade with. And so I would stay up all night because I live in Australia. So I'd stay up all night trading the E-mini S&P 500. Now I know had a $5,000 trading account, and I'm just like, I need to get this working. And I remember one night that I remember prior to this that I was trading quite well, but I just did some really bad mistakes, and I knew how to trade well. I just needed to get back to that state that trading well, because I knew how to trade well. I just did some really bad decisions. So I'm just like I need to start trading this money here. And so the $5,000 trading account, I started trading the E-mini S&P 500 at night time, and I would stay up all night looking at the E-mini S&P, looking at as like 1 minute charts, 5 minute charts, all the way down to like a 44 tick chart. And I remember one night that I was trying to get ahead, and my wife, she was just pregnant with my first child and my first son. And I remember one time I was sitting there, and I went to bed as my wife was just getting up because I traded all night, and I just sat there just crying. And I cried so much because I just lost 50% of my entire account, $2,500 in one night, trading even the S&P 500. And I'm just like, I really want this so badly. I just want it. I want it so badly. And that was a major turning point for me, because I eventually went on to get some really private coaching with my 7-figure coach, and he completely turned around it for me. My success went through the roof, and everything picked up from there. And then from that, there was roughly about 8 months after that, I ended up moving out, and I haven't looked back since. I've gone through some really bad periods since there, but I haven't completely wiped out my account. I might grow my account by 80% and then I'll give back 20% of that, and stuff like that. That's what I have done in the past since then. I haven't completely wiped 50% of my account from there. But, last year was my most successful trading year, and only because I was just waiting for my setup and being patient and just going from there. And I share that with you guys because if you're going through a very hard time yourself right now, if you find yourself just losing money all the time and you just don't know why, I understand. I understand where you are and I understand what you're doing and I can help you. And it's not that I'm some whiz magician or something like that. It's just a simple process of just finding a setup that works for you, that has a very high win-loss ratio, that sometimes you're going to have losing trades and that's okay. And then most of the time you're going to have profitable trades, and that's just the way it works. And finding that setup and just be disciplined with that. And that's why on that coaching call, on that webinar today, you'll be able to see all the details to that. But just reassure you guys that the biggest thing that's going to stop you from moving forward is you. If you want to become part of this world called trading, and this is something that I really had to learn myself. If you want to become part of this world called trading, if you want to be a successful trader, if you want to trade really well in these markets, then you need to start to apply the rules that the really successful traders do. And once I started to realize the laws or what they do to trade well, then that's when I had to start to focus on how they trade well and what they do, and it's not like you need a successful system, like there's so many systems out there that work. Now, my system is the most powerful trading system on the planet. It's not the most trades on the planet. No, I trade very rarely, but the system has a massive, massive high win-loss ratio. In fact, one of my private clients recently just emailed me and he said his very first trade after a couple of months of doing some paper trading and stuff like that with the system, he actually made all his money back from being a private client of mine. And so that was actually really, really, really cool to see that he made all his investment back. And now everything's profit from there, from just waiting for these really good quality setups. And so the thing that I had to start to follow what successful traders do. And on that webinar, I talked to you about all the different things I traded and all the different things I tried, which ultimately led me to being $250,000 debt when I first started. And then I started to go through the story I just talked to you about a minute ago. So you can do it and you can become an amazing trader. You are an amazing trader and you've got to tell yourself that. And it's just a slow process. And the best thing to do is just say, okay, step one, are you following some sort of a plan all the time? And if not, well, that's where you need to start. Forget the mindset, forget the books, forget anything like that. Forget reading Trading in the Zone and Mark Douglas and and all these whiz-bang things and all that sort of stuff. It's like, no. If you have a system that works and you know it works, which means when a system works for you, that means it has a really good win-loss ratio, which means that it could have a 70% win-loss ratio. That means 30% of the time you're going to have losing trades. One thing that I find a lot of traders is they find it's like, this is a successful trading system, and then they have one or two losing trades. I thought this was a successful system. That's just how trading works, you know what I mean? And from that process, we just need to follow a path. And one thing that I really had to learn, I thought, okay, if I really want to get good at this thing called trading, I've got to start to really, really make a commitment out of this. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep spinning my wheels and I'm going to keep losing money, and it's just not going to be a good thing. And that was the biggest wake up call for me. And I just realized it's me that's stopping me from doing well, because I'm not even following any system at all. I was getting in based on some system at times, based on what I thought at times, based on a YouTube video at times, and I was all over the place. No wonder my results were all over the place. And again, on that webinar today, I'll talk more about that and how I came to trading the system I am right now, and so on and so forth from there. So no matter where you're at right now, if you want to become part of this world called trading, you either got two choices. One, you can start to get real serious about what it takes to become a good trader. And you don't have to be rocket scientist or really smart. You just got to find a system that you trade. And then there's all these other areas that go into it as well too, which is, 90% of your success is going to come from your mindset, your risk management, your trade management, how you actually manage each trade as well too. Because I see so many people trade the system that I trade, or some of my private clients, I'll trade it, but because their trade management is all over the place and their risk management all over the place, they turn a 90% win-loss ratio into like a 50-50 win-loss ratio because it's just like, because they were too impatient. Like for example, this trade here, you get it on the breakout bar, the very next day, people freak out and they get out, and then it runs on for profit. It's like, and that's obviously one thing about my coaching program that I help people with. So, and that was the biggest thing for me. If I really wanted to start to move forward with these markets and start to do well, I had to start to follow some systems and approaches that I could trade. And now thanks to my 15 years of trading, I trade the most powerful trading system on the planet. Not the most trades, but the most powerful. Now I use technology to find these trades for me. I use options to generate some really good returns. Like this one here, 70% return in a couple of weeks. That's a really, really good return, especially when you start to get confident to start to put on a fair size position in the markets. Make sense? So there's my little video for the weekend, guys. I hope you guys are having a fantastic 2020. And I really know that I can truly believe, I do know that I can help you when it comes to your trading. And that's why I'm running this webinar, to really help you crush it and become an amazing, amazing trader in 2020.